All right, peace. Now, we going in. So, first and foremost, before we go in, it's important to learn how to ground your energies. All right? I'm going to just say this. Man, people was all up in them energies. After having dropped them energy vampire videos or the energy vampire flicks and the Jezebel spirit flicks, I'm telling you, people be strong up in your energies. Look, it's a red queen in them energies. If you ever wake up and you feel something strong tugging your energies, take some time. Look, yesterday I took some time. It was like Miyamoto Musashi's Book of Five Rings. He has his breathing techniques in there. After you, if you choose to do his methodology, master his and create your own breathing techniques. But then you could take, and that's what I was talking about previously in regards to the Nag Hammadi scripture, that energy that sits at the base of the spine. So when people talk about what sits in my mind, like, so if you say that this person is not it's not you, like this person, this body with the name that you carry is not you, then who are you? Most people don't understand that the energy that they talk about in scripture, especially the mystical aspect of scripture that sits at the base of the spine, that's who you are. That energy, that force that's moving this vehicle is who you are. Absolute. And so it is your task to elevate that energy, to pretty much enlighten all of your, think of it like Tony Stark's Iron Man suit, and he got that big arc reactor in his chest. But think of you having multiple arc reactors. Tony's suit is obsolete. You got multiple arc reactors. All right? You gotta light those arc reactors up with the energy that is you, that sits at the base of your suit. You gotta power your suit. Now, back to it. Because there's some red level energies, low level energies trying to access and activate the energies from my suit. It's this one documentary I was watching about Saturn, because I never understood why they associate Saturn with the Earth planet or a grounding planet, even though it's one of the biggest in the solar system's a gaseous planet. But I watched this documentary and I totally understand it. It's about gravity. It's that force of gravity. So they say Saturn gravity so strong, anything that come towards it, moons, planets come towards it, it compresses it. And that's how the rings was created. It compresses it and pretty much imploded planets, moons, satellites, anything that came close to it, and kept it in orbit of itself, because its gas is spinning so fast though. But it's the gravity that's that grounding effect. So when you feeling them lustful energies, they try to pull on your energies, gravitate that, then breathe on some Miyamoto Musashi. Hit your breathing techniques and elevate that energy, transmute that energy, and appreciate them for providing that energy. Then breathe and elevate that. And if you cold with it, you'll know who in your energy. Like I know who in my energy. If you cold with it, you'll know who in your energy. But you can elevate and you can breathe. Then you can sit, like you can vibrate higher. You'll feel that frequency. You'll feel all them energy points till they click. You'll feel them click on, like even to your hearing, you'll hear that high frequency click. If you just start messing with your breath, especially if you feel that low resignation, if you feeling, this is what this topic is going to be about, anxiety. We got out the way, the people in your energy. Always be watching out for the vampires, the Jezebels. They don't know no better. So when I say that, it ain't even that. For real, I need to get up in your higher state. For real. It ain't nothing like that, but I feel niggas in my energy. Ninjas in my energy. Now, this is about anxiety though. Because we're going to find out if anxiety itself has a frequency or a vibration. If anxiety is a high vibration or is it a low vibration? And how can we actually counter that? Because panic attacks, that's association with fear. But we're going to find out what's the vibratory state and the vibratory rate. Is it better to breathe through it? Is it better to gravitate and ground through it? So this is another page to the compendium that's going to be an important one, because a lot of people that do this work, when you experience these attacks, it's anxiety inducing. So let's go in. Peace, co-pilot. Can you please lay out the triggers, symptoms, and possible treatments for anxiety? When the body experiences high anxiety, has that ever been recorded as a high or low frequency? Is it a great tactic to practice breathing techniques to prevent the symptoms of panic or anxiety attacks, aside of prescribed medication, of course, because we're not doctors here. We are metaphysical, natural, what they call homeopathic and holistic, but we ain't. We're not. Here's a clear grounded breakdown of what we know about anxiety, its triggers, symptoms, and common treatments, along with answers to your questions about body frequency and breathing techniques. I'll keep everything evidence-based, easy to follow. Triggers, symptoms, and treatments for anxiety. These vary from person to person, but research consistently highlights several categories. And this is from the mayoclinic.org sites. Environmental or situational triggers, stress at work or school, relationship conflict, financial pressure, major life changes, traumatic events. Medical or biological triggers, thyroid issues, throat chakra issues. Whenever you see thyroid issues, like I said, what a lot of people in the medical realm like to do, even in the spiritual realm like to do, when you got the feminine, they want to keep it over here, chakras only. When you got the masculine, they keep it over here, thyroid and parathyroid only. You bring them together. When you think of the thyroid, you think of your throat chakra. You think of that blue frequency. You heal it. Heart or respiratory conditions, likewise. You don't separate it. And I'm going to go in like this. I'm going to say it like this. If you go into Genesis, as above, so below, as within, so without. If you go into Genesis, it says there's 4 great rivers. This isn't proven. This is me. This is my metaphysical stories. Like I said, I'm physiology along with spirituality. I put masculine and feminine together. I'm always going to do that. So in Genesis, there was placed 4 great rivers in the center of Eden, and in the center of the body, in the center of Eden, there's 4 great ventricles. So when you radiate from that heart, understand, like when you think of that, think of them 4 great ventricles, them 4 rivers, think of that green. Hormonal changes, certain medications or substance withdrawal, psychological triggers, negative thinking patterns, perfectionism. And that was a huge cue on this video today. Me being a Virgo, I suffer from that. It has to be perfect, or I'm criticizing myself first. Past trauma, co-occurring mental health conditions, depression, OCD, etc. Genetic factors, anxiety disorders often run in families. That can be proven, because in this space, we've already proven many type of what they will call hereditary, that stems from common eating patterns as well. So if you change your diet, you change the way your mind thinks, your stomach, your heart, your brain. You change the chemical makeup of you change that possibility of anxiety. Psychological symptoms, fear, dread, or panic, irritability, difficulty concentrating, racing thoughts. Physical symptoms, rapid heartbeat, shortness of breath, sweating or trembling, muscle tension, nausea, tingling, or numbness. Okay, and so why it's important to always blend the feminine with the masculine together is, so these physical symptoms came out with the shortness of breath, rapid heart beating, muscle tension. Those are the physical symptoms manifest from the symptoms of anxiety, of the fear, of the past trauma, of the negative thinking patterns, thyroid issues, or heart or respiratory conditions. So those are playing frequency level on the spiritual plane, feminine aspect. Think of the fear, the trauma, the thoughts, negative thinking patterns. Those are vibratory frequencies on the spiritual aspect. That's going off unseen subconscious. It's manifesting physically, rapid heartbeat, shortness of breath, muscle tension, nausea, sweating, and trembling. As above, so below, as within, so without. Now, since it's manifest without, that is your key indicator to now take action without, to heal and repair within. And so that is the purpose of the question, in figuring out what frequency is anxiety. So if you find out, is it better for you to use breathing techniques, or is it better for you to ground? Or the purpose of yoga is to yoke. So if you up high and you ground, you can then play with the energies, and now you messing not only with polarity but then the law of rhythm. So now when it goes down, you can stop it, because your baseline, you've raised your vibration up. Now your baseline only declines it to a certain level. It only declines it to a certain level. You can control that. Yo, hold that. Evidence-based treatments, psychotherapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, exposure therapy for phobias or panic. Yo, and that's huge, because that's one of the practices in the Book of Five Rings what Miyamoto would do. For him to practice his breathing techniques, he was a warrior. So his aim was to stay calm in the most adverse moments, anxious inducing moments. So a lot of warriors, when there were scheduled battles or trainings and they knew they would go to battle, it would be easier for them to control their anxiety. But what he would do would be practicing spur in the moment adversarial or spur of the moment anxious inducing situations, to where you can't plan it. You would then have to go off your base instinct, your guttural instinct, or your lower instinct. And from your lower instinct, your gut, then you can take it up to the heart, to the brain, if you can control it instinctually. And so that's what he did. And so when it talks about exposure therapy, he would expose himself to many instances of agitation, just so he can instinctually train his body to get into the state of calm, breathing, deep breathing for calm. Like even now, the anxiety, you can feel the energy around. Type flow. So, mindfulness-based therapies, medication. See, I'm not big on that, but not a cure, but can reduce symptoms. If you want to go through that, pause this, take the screenshot of that, then you take that to your doctor. You and him can consult back and forth with that. Some medications I'm not with. This is where I'm oftentimes people say you shouldn't with the cannabinoids, etc. That's why I'm big on people utilizing cannabinoids to an extent, not becoming dependent on it, and making sure that their lifestyle doesn't become complacent because of the usage of it. But if you understand that you're high anxiety, and if the cannabinoids work for you, who am I to say that, or anybody to say no and tell you to go be prescribed acetaminophen, which will do far more damage to your blood. And the Most High, he hears the blood, like he's indicated. What was that in Genesis when Cain slew Abel? I hear the blood screaming from the ground. You know what I mean? So who am I to tell you to go to somebody to be prescribe you something to mess with your blood if something plant-based assists your anxiety on a mental state. Anyway, I'm always on the soapbox. Y'all gotta tell me get off of it. Does anxiety correspond to a high or low body frequency? This is where it gets good. There's no scientific evidence that anxiety corresponds to a high or low body frequency in the metaphysical or sound healing sense. Sounds like we got some work to do. However, brainwave activity does change with anxiety. What science shows, anxiety is associated with increased high beta brainwave activity, 12 to 30 hertz, which reflects hyperarousal and overthinking. Hyperarousal and overthinking. So it doesn't say what type of hyperarousal. It comes from the source it pulled from as well as biologyinsights.com. But hyperarousal can be both lower and upper hyperarousal. All right. Also upper thinking. So it hits you with the lower and the upper. Hyperarousal and overthinking. Overstimulation into the degree of, sounds like to me where trauma has set in so far where now people have over-utilized that dopamine release trigger to cope, and now hyperarousal on the low-level plane or overthinking on the upper plane. So if you go back to the previous lessons, I believe that's the law of correspondence, where the upper is order, lower is force. Order without force, stagnation, overthinking. Force without order, chaos, hyperarousal. Again, order without force, stagnation, overthinking. Force without order, chaos, hyperarousal. How can we tether them or yoke them or yoga them? Relaxation corresponds to alpha, 8 through 12, and theta, 4 through 8 hertz waves. That's the opposite. Relaxation corresponds to alpha, 8 through 12 hertz, and theta, 4 through 8 hertz waves. Anxiety equals a higher frequency brain activity. So we always talking about vibrate higher. Don't vibrate to that level of anxiety if you don't understand how to ground. Go back to the beginning of this video when I'm talking about that gravitational pull of Saturn. You have a gravitational pull. Don't go so high where you anxious. Now understand, sometimes my anxious people, if you can control that, that may be a superpower, because it's yet to be researched. The frequency of it, the body frequency of it, not the brainwave frequency. It says the body frequency is yet to be researched. It can mess around and be a superpower if you can harness and control it. It's just my crazy thoughts. Calm states, lower frequency brain activity. This is about brain electrical patterns, not vibrational frequency of the body. This is about brain electrical patterns, not vibrational frequency of the body. So again, when we go back into the mind studies, I know I always got a soapbox. The mind studies is about brain frequency pattern, but it's telling you at this time of anxiety, the upper is not tethered to the lower. They haven't researched body vibratory rate or heart vibratory rate along with brain wave vibratory rate. They're always separating the masculine from the feminine. Why do they do that? Are breathing techniques a good tactic for anxiety and panic? Yes, very much so. Breathing techniques are one of the most effective non-medication tools for managing anxiety and panic symptoms.
Why they work. Anxiety triggers shallow, rapid chest breathing. This reinforces the fight or flight response. Slow, controlled breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which calms the body. And this is coming from nixcare.com. Evidence-based breathing methods include diaphragmatic belly breathing or belly breathing. 4, which I believe is breathe in 4 seconds, hold it for 7 seconds, release it for 8 seconds breathing. Box breathing, resonant breathings, 5-6 breaths a minute. And those websites are shown. Studies show these techniques can lower heart rate, reduce muscle tension, improve emotional regulation, interrupt panic spirals. Putting it all together, anxiety has well-documented triggers and symptoms. Treatments range from therapy to medication to lifestyle tools. Scientifically, anxiety corresponds to higher frequency brainwave activity, not metaphysical frequencies. Breathing techniques are highly effective and widely recommended as part of anxiety management.
Yo, this compendium, we building. My bad, y'all. It's a lot of stuff be going on. We gonna end it. Peace.